Well, I played golf all 4 years of high school. Real quick, is there any golfers in the house tonight on any of our campuses? Throw your hand up, any golfers? Hey, let's show these people some love. They're out there working hard, you got to carry those clubs. Man. Well, playing golf in high school, had a lot of fun. I'll never forget this Thursday, though. Coach called our team together before we were about to start our practice round. He's like, all right, guys, we got a big tournament coming up tomorrow. And, we've got our varsity. I was the number 5 player on the varsity team. And he's like, well, we're going to do something different today at practice. I'm actually going to take the top 5 scores turned in at the end of practice. I'm taking all you guys on the tournament tomorrow. And if you guys know this about golf, you go to a tournament, you get to skip class all day. So, there's a lot of motivation here. Everybody's excited, right? Because every spot is up for grabs. And I'm not very nervous. I mean, I am the 5 spot, but I know in this moment I just got to beat out a bunch of underclassmen, and I pretty much got it in the bag. Well, that day, start the practice round, and I'm not having a great day on the course. And I remember getting to hole number 3, and I hit my tee shot. It's a par 3. Par 3, you should hit the ball to the green. You've got about 2 putts to make your par. That's a typical par 3. Well, my tee shot goes long. The ball falls off the backside of the green. And I remember walking up to it and get my pitching wedge out, and I've just got to a little chip up onto the green and hopefully make my putt for a par. Well, I hit my chip and I chunk it. All right? And if you chunk it in golf, basically what happens, the ball just kind of hops off your club 2 feet in front of you. It's the most annoying thing ever. I chunk it, I gather myself, I go hit my next shot up onto the green. I've got about 6 feet left to make my par. I'm putting for a 4 on a par 3. It's finally my turn. I step up, I go through my putting routine. I hit my putt, it lips out, I tap in for a 5. And that's a double bogey, not a great score in golf, but here's where it gets worse. I don't know, if you understand how the game of golf works, in high school, for me, we always had one person in the group that was designated as the scorekeeper, and at the end of every hole, everybody calls out their score. The scorekeeper takes the card out, writes down the scores, right? So I call out my 5. Everybody else starts calling out their scores. I'm writing them down. I get to write down my 5, and I can just feel it, the pride welling up in me. Jared, you are completely screwing this up, man. How could you have botched 2 shots like that? You're going to lose your spot. And then I had this thought, I wonder if anybody saw me on the backside of the green chunk that little pitching wedge. I wonder if they saw it. I bet if I wrote a 4, no one would remember. I wrote a 4, kept going. Well, we went on. I finished the round. I still remember huddling up, the team's all finishing up, and I'm totaling up the scores, and I couldn't believe it. I had tied a sophomore in my group. His name was Caleb Sanders. And I'm like, well, okay, and coach is there at this point, and we can see that it's really going to come down to me and Caleb who have tied in this moment. And as I'm handing the scorecard to my coach, Caleb opens his mouth and he's like, hold on a second. Hey, Jared, look at hole number 3. I distinctly remember you said you got a 5. It says 4. I remember in that moment, it was like time froze. I know that I'm wrong. I know that I'm caught, but what do I do? Do I just confess right there on the spot? Do I try to cover my tracks? What do I do? Time slows down. Fortunately for me in that moment, my coach was right there, and he kind of steps in, he grabs the scorecard, he's like, hold on a second, let me look at this. He looks at hole number 3, he sees the 4, and he's like, all right. He looks at the other guys. There were 4 of us who were playing together that day. He looks at the other guys, and he's like, hey, did Jared get a 4 on hole number 3? Do you guys remember him saying a 5? The guys were kind of a little antsy. They kind of eventually shrug their shoulders like, nah, I don't remember, Coach. Coach looks at me like straight in my eyes and is like, Jared, did you get a 4 or did you get a 5? What do you do? I said I got a 4. I hit my tee shot long, I chipped it up on the green, I missed my putt, and I tapped in for my 4. Coach is like, all right, well, here's what we're going to do. Jared, Caleb, go grab your clubs. We're going to a playoff hole. We'll decide who's going to the tournament that way. I remember walking over to get my clubs, and I make eye contact with Caleb. And it's like he could see right through me. He knew I was lying, and there was nothing he could do about it. He deserved that spot in the tournament. Well, we went on to play that playoff hole, and I beat him. And the next day, Caleb went to school, and I played golf. And 15 years have passed since that day, and I still haven't forgotten that lie. You guys can probably relate in some way, shape, or form. Sometimes in life, it can be so tough to tell the truth. There's a lot of ways that you and I try to measure toughness in our world. Today, I want to challenge all of us on in every campus all around CCV. I want to challenge us in a different way. Toughness is so much more. Toughness is measured by the truth you tell. And I think we can all agree, truth is a good thing. Like, we ought to be the kinds of people who tell the truth. It really is a better way. We know that there's some advantages that take place for truth tellers, right? Like this, telling the truth builds character. I think about that day on the golf course. Man, if I would have just been willing to face the consequences and tell the truth in that moment, I think I would have gained the respect of my friends and the guys on my team. But instead, in one lie, it killed my character. And I could tell everybody knew. Everybody knew. Especially Caleb. I think if I just would have told the truth that day, maybe it would have made me better in the long run. Like, maybe it would have increased my resolve to be a better golfer. It definitely would have made me a better person in the long run. Telling the truth will always build your character. Here's another advantage. Telling the truth is freeing. Have you ever been weighed down by a lie? That's what lies do. They pin you down. I can remember, like after that Thursday at practice, for weeks, I couldn't look Caleb Sanders eyeball to eyeball. I just didn't want to even look at him. The truth is what I needed to set me free. Sometimes, guys, it's avoiding the truth ends up and just pins you down. And when you finally tell the truth, it's like a breath of fresh air in your life. It's like, things are how they are. It is what it is. Another advantage to telling the truth. Telling the truth helps people grow. I can't get it out of my mind thinking about Caleb. Like, what if I had just told the truth and he had went to the tournament? Maybe he would have done awesome at the tournament. Maybe it would have like completely boosted his confidence. Maybe it would have propelled his golf career. Maybe we would have had a better friendship because of it. But because I stole the truth in that moment, I kept Caleb Sanders from growing. Like I said, I still can't forget it. The truth really is the better way, and I think, again, we can all agree on that. But let me ask you, if your toughness was measured by the truth that you tell, how tough are you? Maybe we're not as tough as we think we are. Today we're continuing this series called Tough as Nails, and we're going to do something different tonight, something we haven't done in a while. Here in a few minutes as I wrap up, normally we would just go to small groups. You're actually going to read Daniel chapter 4 on your own tonight, everybody. You're going to read, we've got some questions for you we want you to think about before you go to your small groups. And really what you're going to find as you read Daniel chapter 4 tonight is you're going to see toughness demonstrated in the life of Daniel. And it wasn't because he hit the hardest on the football field. It wasn't because he drank the most or got the girl or made All-State on the Babylonian wrestling team. Daniel was tough because when it mattered, he told the truth. Let me set the scene for you. 2,600 years ago, in the ancient city of Babylon, this is a real place. You can check all the history. King Nebuchadnezzar was on the throne of Babylon. He's one of the most powerful men in the known world. And Daniel has been enslaved by this king, held captive as an advisor in the royal palace. And as you're going to read for yourself, right at the beginning of Daniel 4, Nebuchadnezzar is going to start to tell you about a dream that he had. And he's kind of freaking out about this dream. Because in this culture, dreams always had a meaning. You had to figure out what they were all about, especially Nebuchadnezzar. He could tell this dream wasn't good, but what did it mean? So he calls all of his advisors. He starts with this specific group: enchanters, astrologers, and sorcerers. Basically, a bunch of fantasy sci-fi nerds. If you're a fantasy sci-fi nerd, by the way, I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend you at all. I've seen Harry Potter. I like Lord of the Rings. No offense. Thank you. These guys are called to the throne, and Nebuchadnezzar tells them his dream, but none of them can give him an interpretation. Now, according to biblical scholars, these guys shouldn't have had any problem interpreting the dream. They're some of the smartest people in the known world at the time. They should have known. My opinion, it wasn't that these guys couldn't tell the truth. It's that they weren't tough enough to tell it. Let me ask you, students, why is it so hard? Why is it so tough to tell the truth? Is it because we're afraid? Do we not want to face the consequences? You don't want to get grounded? So you don't want to have that 4.0 jeopardized? You don't want to have that A on that test jeopardized because, you covered up some of your tracks on that assignment that you turned in or that paper that you were supposed to write? You don't want to get unfollowed, blocked, or unfriended? Maybe you just don't want to miss out. You want to keep getting invited to that party. You want that boy to ask you to prom. Here's what we tend to do. When we think that telling the truth is going to, there's going to be consequences, we start manipulating the truth. Why do we manipulate the truth? Because we want to control the outcome. We'd rather be in control than honest. Why is it so tough to tell the truth? Is it because we don't want to hurt people's feelings? This is me. I'm a pleaser by nature. I want people to like me. I think a bunch of us would raise our hands. Yeah, that's me too. But here's the deal. Do you want to be someone who's more liked or honest? So many of us choose to be liked. Why is it so tough to tell the truth? Well, in Daniel chapter 4, as you're going to read, this group of advisors, again, my opinion, I think they wanted control. I think they wanted to be liked. So they've got no answer for the king. So what does the king do? He turns to the one person in one of the biggest empires in the world, the one man who had a track record of truth-telling, and that's Daniel. Daniel's a follower of God. He calls for Daniel. Daniel makes his way to the throne. He listens to the dream. And as you'll see, in a very humble and gracious way, Daniel is going to let go of control. He's going to choose honesty over being liked, and he's going to tell the truth. And it's a very hard truth, a truth that could cost him his life. Yet he still tells the truth. Now, before you go and read this story for yourself, let me just ask you, what truth do you need to tell? Maybe there's some of you listening right now, and in your life, there's a lie. Maybe there's a series of lies that you are living in the midst of. Again, this was my story in high school. I told you one story. I wish there was only one story. Maybe you're living in a lie or a series of lies. And maybe you haven't realized it yet, but it's killing your character. You're losing trust with the people that you care about most, and maybe you don't realize it. But that's what lies do. It takes years to build character. It takes seconds to destroy it with a lie. And for some of you, that's where you've been living. And for some of you, you feel so weighed down by all the lies that you're trying to keep up with. You're choosing control over the truth. For others of you, it's not so much that you're lying. It's just that you've got stuff going on in your life that no one knows about. Or at least the people that matter the most to you don't know a thing. You're concealing the truth. And there's some of us that, again, we don't want to hurt people's feelings, but there's somebody in our life, and they're acting a certain way, or they're treating you a certain way, and it's been bothering you, and it's been eating at you, and you've been putting it off, pretending like it'll all just go away, but it never does, and it's weighing you down, and you just want to be free. Go tell the truth. Go find that tough as nails mentality. Do what Daniel did, humbly, graciously. Tell the truth. And trust God with the rest. Students, listen to me. You are tougher than you think you are. And here's why I know that. I know that because for so many of you listening right now, you are a follower of Jesus Christ. And I realize there's people on every campus tonight, and you don't follow Jesus. You're not there yet, and that's awesome. You're always welcome at church with us. But for so many of us, this is our story. We're Jesus followers. And listen to me. The Spirit that lives within us is the embodiment of truth itself. Christ in you is the purest form of truth in the world. So many of us suppress that truth from our lives. And listen, if anything is eating at you right now, that's not me. That's Christ in you. And He's compelling you to tell the truth. You were not given a spirit of fear, but one of power, of true toughness. So what truth do you need to tell? I'm going to pray here in just a second that the Spirit of Jesus inside of you would give you the toughness to speak that truth starting tonight. Again, we're doing something a little different tonight, so here in just a second, the student pastor on your campus is going to come and give you instructions for what we're going to do, but before they come, let me just pray for us. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for tonight. Gosh, I am a messed up person, and I've got stuff in my life, and Father, I'm not always honest. And I know you see that, and I know you forgive me and love me anyways. I know there's a bunch of students who maybe need to admit that tonight. And there's a bunch of students whose character has been jeopardized by a lie. They feel weighed down. And somebody's not able to grow because they haven't been willing to tell the truth yet. And I pray tonight that the truth would win and that students would have toughness that only comes from you, Jesus. I pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.